So, Chloe and Luna, would you please do us the honor of introducing yourselves and then introducing 24Haven?
Sure.
Our dedicated controller, so your Astra, and then Chamber as well. So they kind of like split that role of Smoke Senti. And then we have Slendy, who is our current initiator slash flex role.
Hey, interesting. Well, that actually takes me, so I'll ask the first question because that was one of the questions I had. I noticed that there were a couple of you that played Chamber in the last few games that you've played. So one, I was wondering what prompted you all to go for a Chamber pick? And then two, how do you decide who gets to play Chamber?
Actually, that's actually a perfect question. So most of the time, like we're all pretty individually skilled on the op, and that character is really built for opping. So pretty much any map that requires it, we kind of just fell into a way of first it was me on Fracture, and then we started transitioning it to like Split, and we started transitioning it to maps like Haven. And most of the time we just kind of like kept who would most fit on that role onto that chamber. So with me not on Sova for Fracture, we went with me. For Haven, we were having Nina on it because she was our Senti player on the map. And then all the other maps, it kind of just fell in line with Maddie and whoever else is on it.
So kind of whoever is, I don't want to say like leftover, but whoever is able to fill a role that you, or an agent that you didn't see like fully necessary for a map, then that person's kind of picking up the chamber.
Yeah, pretty much. It's whoever just fills it at that point.
Yeah, and in my opinion, I think Chamber in the meta right now, he's so good that it's kind of hard to not run him on a lot of maps. I think there's somewhere you can get away with him, but most of the time, he's just too good not to run.
Yeah, definitely noticed Chambers' pick rate. What was it, like 47% in NA for challengers? So definitely feels like he's in the meta.
Yeah, every team for the most part, I think has, played at least one map, usually a lot more, but at least one map, like trying out the chamber meta for themselves. And like being one of the first agents to really have a kit as opposed to I'm totally word salading all of my words right now. But, having
You're
like a
fine.
kit that is not the same as Jets, but has that same kind of utility to use the op and is definitely built around using the ultimate that he has on top of, the operator itself. Everybody's kind of like testing that out just to see how the rest of his kit kind of plays into team compositions and whatnot. And I think it's actually really nice that we finally have an agent who can kind of replace Jet in that kind of way, considering the fact that the Jet meta has been like so pertinent for so long now. It's actually really refreshing to see this new agent actually being picked up, because I think that a worry with Chamber initially, at least when he was first released, was, everyone was kind of like, oh, like he's going to be so OP as an agent and whatnot. But at the same time, there's also the concern that like, at face value, his kit might look that way. But then when you pair it up with teams and team compositions for executions on maps and whatnot, I was definitely concerned that he wasn't going to have as much value. And happy that he's actually helping like the meta move away from Jet and whatnot in that case.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that there's more like team play initiated with him because I was worried that people would think, oh, he can be like a solo sentinel. Everyone who plays Jet before is gonna play him like a duelist, but he's still a sentinel at the end of the day. So I'm glad to see that he's like that aggressive sentinel, but still a sentinel and not like an entire replacement of Jet. He still has his role as a sentinel, but he can be aggressive as well.
Yeah, and I think the craziest thing about him as a sentinel too is that he's just so flexible. He can literally do everything. There's a lot of chamber lurks coming out in VCT. There's people like Bordel who are extremely good at just getting first picks and just TPing away.
Yeah.
I think he did a really good job with that in VCT, despite their unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah.
I think miniature as well. He showed like how insanely aggressive you can actually get on him. I saw him like in the spawn like 15 seconds in the round, just running at people with an op and just instantly TPing away. That was crazy. So I'm excited to see how more people use him because he's so versatile.
100%. And okay, I'm gonna jump into the next question here. And it is not as serious of a question, but as we're talking about agent picks, I think, the last Game Changers Academy
Oh no.
with Chloe Gaming, we saw the Yoru picks coming out from you guys. Obviously, you guys are just, you're having a good time throughout the tournament. Thank you for the fan service. Yeah, we had the privilege of casting those games. So thank you for the fan service. I was curious to know, will we ever see the Luna versus Chloe Yoru matchup and face off one day
I'm down.
for the fans, please?
I'm in.
So down.
I'm in.
That's the next post plan. We're not talking about anything. It's just the
Yeah,
one
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, if you want to show see match. that, you gotta follow. You gotta come We to can the do a show stream. match here. We have all the necessary
Exactly.
pieces.
Exactly.
Tell your friends. You don't want to miss it.
Hug teams. Chloe Gaming versus Luna Gaming.
That would be crazy. That would be a crazy matchup.
That'd be pretty whack.
5v5 Yoru only. I'm down.
Oh,
I'm so down.
Oh,
was won't be able to see.
Dibs not casting it. My eyes would hurt so much. I think.
Oh, jeez.
I'll
Yes.
cast it. I like some Yoru gameplay.
You are a liar. You're a dirty liar. Every single time Gompers casts, if there's a Yoru pick, Gompers talking smack immediately. Immediately.
Wow,
Guys,
so
don't
fake on first.
expose me like this. Don't
Wow.
expose me like this.
You
Yeah.
expose yourself on stream every single time.
Okay, I do listen. I do have to say Yoru is like, okay, it's like you're either like really really good with Yoru or like you're just like you literally you should not play him. Like that's just my opinion.
It's a dichotomy.
That's just because hear me out. That's just because like, I've seen some Yorus play in my comp games and like, some of them are really good. The TPs, they're unpredictable. They always use shotguns because it's the easiest, you can just pull it out one tap, kids. But then there's the Yorus that will legitimately TP right in front of you and try to pull that flash TP thing, and then they just get one tapped or like it's just not working out. Like there's no middle fragger, like decent Yoru that makes mistakes from time to time. It's like the Yorus that just like go in and they're VCT material. I swear.
No in between. But also speaking, like on the topic of Yoru, I was curious to get your guys' opinions on the upcoming changes and the rework that we're going to see coming out for his kit and what kind of value you think that will bring to team play and if you think that will actually make Yoru a viable pick that we're going to be seeing coming out in the future.
From what I saw, in my opinion, some of the changes look really cool. But I think some of them, don't really change the fundamentals of his kit as a whole. I feel like if his TP is going to be the same, it's as slow as it normally is, it's just not going to be good. I feel like they have to do a lot of work into putting Yoru to be viable and competitive. I feel like maybe in Pugs will be okay, but for now, I'm just going to wait and see because I really don't trust it.
I think it's the same for me where I kind of just have to wait and see how he feels. I think it's going to be similar to a character like Chamber, though, where people at first are going to think he's going to be bad, but I do think he might end up being pretty decent. I don't know if he'll
Okay.
be as
Yeah.
good as Chamber
Mhm.
turned out to be, but I do think he'll be up there.
Yeah, and we only rumored like a few of the changes. We don't know if that's it or if they're gonna come up with more in the time between now and the actual changes. So yeah, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I remember when they had that like teaser, they talked about like something secret about the ultimate to make it easier to like clear sites. So I'm really interested in seeing what that is.
Mhm. Yeah, because we don't have all the cards quite yet, so it's gonna be definitely interesting. I think it's rolling out next act, if that was my understanding from the teasers that we got. I could be wrong about that. So
Definitely this
nobody told
episode.
me. Yeah, it's definitely this episode, but I just don't know if it's gonna be like within this act. But I think definitely by the next one, considering the fact that we're not getting, at least from what we've heard, we're likely not getting a new agent this episode, but we are getting a
No,
new map
yeah, they're
in
focusing.
Act 3. Yeah. Focusing more on like reworking and fixing in-game issues as well as like reporting things and whatnot. But yeah.
Yeah, no maps or agents.
Unfortunate.
I mean,
Oh.
it's enough to work through,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like,
Mhm.
so that actually brings up one question in terms of your adaptations to new maps. So I know that a lot of players really didn't like Fracture when Fracture came out. So I'm curious as to what your team's approach to it was and how did you adapt to it? Because now it's kind of, I wouldn't say in the meta, but people aren't like running away from Fracture.
It's kind of difficult, like adjusting to it. With all new maps, like obviously we want to scrim it and we want to like practice on it and we want to get as much time on it as possible. But not having those other teams that want to do that kind of made it a little bit difficult. And at the time, I think there was like a leak that there might be Fracture in like a upcoming Game Changers, and then that fell through. So I know like a bunch of teams practiced the map and were like set up for it, and I think a lot of it was just like when the new maps come out, you just want to play it as much as possible for the upcoming tournaments. And if it's not like gonna be in an upcoming tournament, you kind of want to avoid it at the same time until you actually have to start prepping it. But it's difficult to find a way to get time on that map when nobody likes it.
Yeah. For sure, for sure. And I think like that kind of goes into not necessarily fully, but scrims related question of mine. I was wondering what your experience has been so far as 24 Haven, looking for scrims, booking scrims with other teams, just because I know that there's a lot of female and marginalized gendered teams run into issues with scrims, especially with like if they're playing against an all male team, then sometimes you get like into a scrim with like a really troll team or one that's not taking you as seriously. So I was curious to know what your experience has been with that, because I know for the most part, most of the Game Changers teams try to avoid scrimming against each other just because the pool of teams competing against each other is so small. So to be able to, flexibly adapt and learn other play styles and how to play against other play styles, you're better off playing against teams that you won't be seeing as much in like the main circuit that you compete in. Yeah, I was just curious to see what your guys' experience has been so far with that.
Overall, it's been pretty healthy. We don't really run into a lot of people who kind of like troll or are like overly rude or anything like that. We've had teams in the past where we've had to say, no, we're not scrimming these guys ever again, or like their playstyle is just not worth us playing against. But most teams are pretty standard and like easy to practice against. We don't usually scrim Game Changers teams either, because again, what you said, like the pool is just too small, not enough teams, players kind of like going through teams. It's hard to scrim against them because you can give away a lot of information about what you're working on
Yeah.
and what you're doing. So try to tend to avoid that and just focus on scrimming co-ed teams.
No, for sure. That makes sense. Thank you for answering my question.
And I think to add, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just
Okay.
yeah. You can go. You can go first because I could probably follow up.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna follow up with what Luna said, and I think a lot of the times when it comes to finding good scrims and like kind of getting the people that don't troll is you have to have really good connections and you have to
Mhm.
be in like the good discords or the like prac.com or stuff like that. In order to get that you need rep. So you kind of have to play in a lot of tournaments and kind of get your brand as a team up in order to start
Mhm.
getting like the better scrims and people that like actually respect you.
That makes
Touching on that,
sense.
touching on that as well, our manager does a very good job of that. Shout out to Alex.
We love Alex.
Huge shout out to Alex. Do you want to plug Alex's Twitter?
So on the on the topic of scrims, I did want to ask, like, do you guys have well, like, mental is important for scrimming, and I know certain teams very focus on like the mental aspect of gaming and like the physical aspect of taking care of themselves before tournaments, or just generally trying to keep their mental up or whatever. Do you guys do anything, like, I don't know, like, let's say you guys try to drink tons of water and try to get some exercise in to keep the mental up, or whatever the case may be?
I think a lot of our stuff was mainly individual because I mean everybody has their own like individual issues and everybody solves it their own way. Um, I think having guidance with a coach or like someone else, like a therapist or like a mental coach, really helps. But I don't think we've done like a lot of stuff as a team to work on our mental because overall it's not bad.
You love to hear it. I mean, I feel that's like part of the biggest part of the battle is honestly maintaining a good mental within the team and making sure that, the synergy stays alive, especially if you're like down bad within a game and whatnot, is just making sure that you're still working together and not against each other. And on that note, kind of a similar question, but a little bit different. Do you guys have any like team rituals or anything that you do, like traditions, to kind of help hype yourselves up as a team before a match or a tournament?
One of our more recent traditions that we've been doing, we kind of do like this team roll call thing. So basically, we'll go through and we'll just say, like, one person will say a name and go down the list and just call out everybody's name. And we always have people who respond wacky things. Like Maddie's always saying something different during the roll call.
Mhm.
Or Nina's always like, "Oh, what?" Or like just silly stuff before games that just kind of keep our mental high and keep us like on our toes.
That's
Yeah, one
fun. And
thing.
do you, oh, you go ahead, Chloe.
Yeah, one thing I like to do a lot. I have the Spectrum spray from the Zed collection, and during like pauses or like the start of a round, I like to spray it, and then everyone like huddles around and dances.
I love that. I do that in my games all the time, but it depends on people actually dance with me. That's the thing.
That's a vibe, though. That do be a vibe.
It is.
Love it.
I mean,
Um,
I have more questions as well if we're still deciding on what we
Yeah,
want to
go ahead.
ask.
Well,
I
someone
just
in the
didn't want to like
chat.
keep asking my
Oh, no,
questions because I
you're
was
good.
like, somebody else needs to have a
No,
turn.
you're good. Someone in the chat asked thoughts on Chloe gaming.
Chloe Gaming. That's all I
Yeah.
gotta say.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
That's all we wanted to know.
That's pretty self-explanatory, I think,
Yeah.
honestly. It's just, yeah.
I cemented it, you know.
I mean, everybody knows Chloe Gaming. If you don't know Chloe Gaming, you have to figure it out yourself. That's the rough way. Sorry about it.
Not the rough
But
way.
Um, so, let's go to the origins basically. So, everybody started off playing video games just to play video games, for fun. What brought you from playing, video games just for fun to wanting to compete in them professionally?
So for me, it's always kind of been like deeply rooted in my history. When I was growing up, I always played video games through my brother's Xbox and PlayStation. Like I was always a thing. And eventually, it kind of just like I kind of just saw myself doing nothing else people would ask, "Oh, what do you want to see yourself doing?" And everybody's got like something that they wanted, and all my thoughts were I just kind of want to play games, you know. So I kind of just like tried to hunt my way through it and tried to find my way through it, clawing through 4 different games at a very high competitive level until I landed on Valorant.
What were your first few games on like the Xbox and PlayStation?
Obviously, I played a bunch of like the more casual games, like your Spyros, your Crash Bandicoots, your Ratchet and Clanks. But my first more competitive game was Call of Duty.
Oh, nice. What about you, Chloe?
For me, I'll be honest with you, I really can't say anything. I kind of just started us off just, kind of playing what my friends play or whatever. So I bounced around a lot. I played a lot of Counter-Strike. I played a lot of Fortnite, a lot of Overwatch. Basically, like kind of any shooter game out there, I was always playing it. And then I played like one season of Open and Counter-Strike, and I realized, hey, maybe this game isn't for me. And at that point, I also had access to Valorant, and I thought, hey, might as well give it a shot. And I fell in love with the game, and I've just been grinding it.
What, like, between Valorant and CS:GO, what was I guess, like, the words are difficult sometimes. My good God. Okay.
All the time. All the time.
What was the biggest obviously, like, there's abilities and whatnot, so that's kind of silly of me to word it that way. But what was the factor that I guess pushed you or got you to enjoy Valorant a lot more than CS:GO?
I think the main thing was the amount of utility in the game, like every character having unique abilities. I mean, I played Overwatch for a long time, so I had experience with that, and I thought it was really fun. I was kind of missing that when I started playing like Counter-Strike and stuff like that. So I always thought that was just like a really fun piece of the game for me. I also really like the tempo in this game because you could either be like super slow or super fast. Like there's a lot more you can do in Valorant compared to Counter-Strike. And you can do like some of the craziest things if you have good mechanical skill and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's what kind of drew me in.
For
think-
me, because I actually technically came from CS:GO. CS:GO was my second competitive game, and then I went to Heroes of the Storm. But it's the same thing that got me into Heroes in the first place, and it's the pacing. Quicker games, like quicker, just like pace of how the gunplay is in Valorant compared to CS, and just like the overall feel. It just felt cleaner. It felt newer and just more up to date, and just felt nicer compared to like from Heroes of the Storm to League or Dota, with Valorant to CS:GO.
That makes sense. Does anyone? I feel like I'm asking a lot of questions. I want to be able to give the floor to somebody else, to another host who might have something to say. If not, I can continue to ask questions if you guys are
I'll
waiting
ask.
for.
I'll ask another.
I think we're all shy. We're just.
I'll ask
We're all
another.
shy.
Yeah. I'm curling my toes. I'm so scared to talk.
Wait.
Okay.
I dislike the fact that you said you were curling your toes.
Yeah.
It's like,
scared,
it's
but
like,
it's
when you're
fine.
scared, those like pictures where they're like, they put their fingers together and they put their toes together. It's and like
The toes together?
sometimes when you're scared, you just get scared, so you curl up, you curl your toes. Is that not a thing?
I've never curled my toes and I was scared.
Anyways, what was your question? Go first.
What was the question?
Yeah.
What an amazing question. Let's continue on with the question, I guess. So basically everybody on the team was obviously brought a certain way. The main question I have right now, so I can continue on with my question, so that I know if I should ask this question, is like, do you guys hold trials and see how you feel with that certain player?
We originally did that.
Okay.
So when we brought Chloe on, we held trials. Before that, when I was brought on, we were holding trials for myself. And I know it's just kind of like been the way we've done it. When we had Bungie, we had trials for her. And I think it's like the best way to tell how you'll feel with the player. So it's usually the best course.
Okay. Well, then another thing I was going to ask, that I wanted to lead into this question is, so generally, what draws you as a team when you're trialing new people? What draws you guys personally to these certain players in their specific roles, whether it be like, oh, their personality or how well they mesh or, how well they play? What is the thought process there?
A lot of it is like the mesh and like how they like the mechanical skill level doesn't matter as much as just like their game knowledge. If their game knowledge is high, their mechanical skill level doesn't need to be as high. But what always needs to be up is like how well they play with you and how well you click. So I know Nina and Slandy were on a team. I think Nina, Slandy, and Maddie were on a team before this. And then I got brought on after VCT Game Changers 2. Which a lot of that came down to like how well I meshed with them, and obviously the silver role is a hard role to find, so I kind of lucked out a little bit. And then when we brought Chloe on, she brought like a certain air that it was just easy to play with her and really fun. She just made it enjoyable, and yeah, I cut everybody's mentals high. Whenever we'd get like frustrated or stuck, she would say stuff, and it would just make us feel better. Or in the middle of a pause, we'll ask her what the enemy coach is saying, and she'll mimic the enemy coach and bring us back into the game. And she just brings a good personality to the team, and that's what we always looked for when we were trialing.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I think it helps as well because I've had like experience with Nina and actually, yeah, everybody except Luna basically on the team in the past when it came to playing. So it helps when you already have kind of like your boundaries and chemistry already set up when it comes to playing in a team. Because I've kind of stood in and filled roles or whatever when it came to like standing in or trials or whatever when it came to playing with them. Before the game, before the team, I talked to Slandy a lot too. We were always pretty close, so it kind of helped with my trials because I knew everybody like personally.
That makes sense. Plus, like, I mean, sometimes you just got that natural chemistry, right? Going into things. So I'm really glad to hear that, everything worked out in that way. And you definitely always need someone who fills the role that Chloe, you yourself fill. Like being able to always kind of bring, I feel like every team should have that person, someone who can always like clear the air, bring the mental back up when it's necessary, and just like be able to joke around, make everybody laugh, and just bring everybody down to earth. Especially when it's like if you're like down on a game and whatnot. But yeah. Sorry, my brain is actually
No, you're
putting
good.
No worries. No worries.
I'm
Well,
struggling. I have had a 24 hours.
oh geez.
But yeah.
Well,
Um,
I'll ask the next question so you don't have to,
No,
to worry
you're
about.
good. I have a whole list of questions. I'm not gonna cap with you right now.
Okay. Well, Winter has a question from the chat. So Winter wants to know what's different being signed to an org. So I know you all can't say the org, and we're gonna have to wait patiently. But with what you can tell us, can you tell us like what's the difference, and is it reassuring having the support of an org, or is there just like an added pressure to live up to expectations?
There's a lot of things that are different. Like a lot of us actually have the free time now, because we have the backing to be able to play. And I know like it's easier now that we don't have to put as much time into schooling, or we don't have to put as much time into like having a job on the side. So we get more time to practice and more time to like do our thing. And there is like a reassurance that like we'll have that support, but there also is at the same time that pressure where it's just like we want to do well, we want to show up and like perform, and continue to like show that we can get better and that we can improve. Because obviously we want to stay with the org. The ultimate goal is to stay with them as long as we can and grow a brand together. So having that pressure, it's there, but I don't think it's outweighed. Like I think it's outweighed by like just that reassurance of them being there in the first place.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
and also coming from a background where I started doing socials before I got signed to this team. So I did socials at Ambox and I did social media, and I was a part of a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I kind of know what it's like from both sides of an organization when it comes to like the pressure on the players and what the org expects from them. So I think that also just kind of helped me like understand my like responsibilities and what I have to do when it comes to like showing myself to the org.
So a lot of pressure, it sounds like, but also like exciting because you don't have the pressure from like IRL stuff. Um, I'm curious about your all's like drive to compete in the main VCT circuit and in other tournaments. So you all have competed in like Boom TV, for example, and just a lot of the open circuits or tournaments. And that's something that some of the Game Changers teams haven't really done. And you all did this before even getting signed. So what gave you all the confidence to sign up for those tournaments, and what was your kind of thought process um, in signing up, and what has it been throughout your registration in these tournaments?
We knew going into it, it's going to be difficult, especially when you're mainly only playing in the Game Changer circuit at the start. But I think a lot of us just wanted that drive, and we like wanted to get better. We wanted to be the best. We kind of like took note from Cloud9 White. We took note from Shopify. We took note from CLG Red, where they're playing in all these tournaments, and we're kind of just we want to be better than them. We want to beat them. Sorry, KP. Um, but at the same time, um, we know we're not going to be able to only be better than them by just playing against Game Changers teams and only
Mhm.
playing in Game Changers. We have to play at the level that they're playing at if we want to even come close or surpass them.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
sure. Especially. Oh, sorry. I don't mean
Sorry,
to cut you off.
I keep cutting in. Sorry.
No. You
Uh,
go. You go.
okay. At least personally, I don't want to be known as a Game Changers team.
Yeah.
That's not really my goal when it comes to playing competitively. I just want to be a team, and I want to like be up there and play well against all these better teams. And that's kind of my drive when it comes to it. Because I think that our team, especially like both mechanically, and just game wise, we have a lot of potential, and I don't think we've like fully been able to build on that yet.
That makes sense. And I think like that's the biggest thing, especially in not just actually, no, not just in Game Changers teams, or like team women and marginalized genders teams, but um I don't think teams, and this I'm not going to get too in depth on this particular topic because we're going to touch on it a little later. Um the importance of actually taking the time to grow together and really foster and nurture that synergy and chemistry as a team just isn't as prioritized as I would like to see in the competitive Valorant scene right now. Um, and like I'm definitely hoping that it becomes more the norm. I know we talked about it in a previous episode. Like Average Jonas even tweeted out, like talking about how rosters are really quick to swap players out or just trial new players. If a particular tournament doesn't go the way that they were expecting it to go, or they didn't see the kind of performance that they're expecting out of the team. And I think it's the hardest thing is that Valorant being such a young scene so far, only being in its second year of being, live, having competitive scene, being out to the public and whatnot. I think it's something that teams are still kind of taking for granted is the idea of actually investing time um, as like a whole 5 to 6 person roster, ensuring that they are growing together as opposed to like I don't know. I feel like because the scene is young, everyone's kind of like, oh, like let's just there's so much talent out there. Let's just try out as many like players as we possibly can, or like just people are like quick to swap things out. So I think it's really nice to hear that you guys are really focused on growing together and um, trying to really nurture the potential that you guys have as a team because that's ultimately what it comes down to. These teams who get really far and make names for themselves, within competitive scenes are they're making these names for themselves as a team. They're not making these names for themselves as just individual players. And obviously, they're always going to be star players, whether it's on a team or like in general as a free agent. But like when it comes down to it, that's not the point of making a team. And if that's like the mindset, I think that you're going into things with, you're not going to get very far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem that a lot of like org managements or just straight up teams have in general is they don't really want to stay together.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times they expect instant success when it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's like because we have heard the stories of several teams who had those moments where the first roster that they have goes very far. They do super well together after that first mesh of players. I think a lot of teams look to that and think that that can happen. But even those stories, they do take a lot of time, a lot of chemistry to work on things. It's not just you take these 5 players randomly, they win a couple of tournaments, and you can do the same thing. Their situation is way different than maybe your situation. I think having that mindset of, oh, we can do the same thing might not work. And if players don't realize that, then that's when the whole problem of disbandment and the team management comes in. So I think definitely showing that journey and how that works in the long run can definitely probably help with the future of the scene.
Yeah, and in my opinion, that's why C9 White as a team is like so far ahead of everybody. That's why they're so good
Mhm.
now. It's because the players chose to stick together and everybody just improved as a whole.
Yeah.
And as a team, they're like a really good cohesive unit now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the way they played, like the first time we saw them in like the that summer showdown, that's the name of it, right? The to now, they definitely had a huge improvement with each other. And even with through the losses and everything, they just stuck it out. They kept practicing and we've seen the improvement. So I really hope that they continue on that journey and I hope other teams can take inspiration from that.
So for your team in particular, what is, I mean, there could be more, but if you could, what is the one thing that your team is working on to kind of get to the next step to try to beat C9 White, to try to beat these other teams when you're entering the quals?
I think we're kind of taking that step already, where we're just kind of trying to grind as many tier 2 tournaments and as many like tournaments as possible. So we have officials experience and we have a lot of like data when it comes to just getting better.
Yeah, just a
I'm-
lot of like, sorry, just a lot
No,
of
you're good.
practice in like the higher tier tournaments and like higher level scrimming teams that are like tier 2 teams, like all things considered, like or like even some teams from different regions that are like higher up there that have had like a taste of playing against even better teams, because you can learn a lot from that just from scrims alone.
For sure. I'm gonna stray away real quick because KP asked a question in chat a while ago, and I just wanted to get to that before we push it off a little bit further. So KP's question is, who is the team punching bag? Like, who gets memed on the most, or is it everyone equally? And then Epitomes or Tala followed up that question with, does having a team punching bag make the team play better?
We definitely have a team punching bag, and that's actually our manager, Alex.
Oh
Oh, the manager.
He, unironically, his name in our Discord for the longest time was #1 punching bag NA. So
God
Oh
damn.
my
That's
Oh
okay, look at
my.
Rick.
Can we get some F's in the chat for Al?
I mean,
Poor Alex, bro.
yeah, it's all in good fun and he knows that though. So
Yeah.
like as long as everybody is like mutually just joking with each other, it's fine. I feel like in a game punching bag wise though, like it's kind of hard sometimes, especially when pressure is involved, because then people end up getting stressed and they might take it the wrong way, and then there's a lot of problems with that. So personally, I kind of dislike having the idea of like a player as a punching bag, like mid
Yeah.
tournament or whatever.
even mid-tournament, it's still probably Alex. It always finds a way to
You
go
know,
back to him. So
you're just gonna. It's okay. Shit on the manager mid tournament. Bring the team
Yeah,
morale up. Easy dubs.
exactly. Let him take all the pressure off, and then you guys continue playing your game. Easy.
Yep.
Well, appreciate you guys candidly and honestly answering that question. Did I have follow up questions not related to this, but unless anyone else wants to
Take it away.
take a swing at things. Okay, cool. I just feel like I've been talking a lot and tripping over my words a lot. So I'm like, do I hand the mic? Is anybody interested? Please save me from myself. But
You're fine.
so I was curious, going back to talking about the Game Changers circuit across the regions, there are a few different rank minimum requirements for the Game Changers like main event series. Specifically, APAC has a diamond rank minimum requirement, and I believe all, if not most of all of the other regions have a minimum rank requirement of platinum, platinum 1 to be specific. And I was curious, like now that we're going to see a global stage coming out for the Game Changers series, how do you guys feel, and do you feel, do you guys feel that that's going to affect the competition at global on any level?
In my opinion, I don't think so. I think all the best teams will end up making their way through the circuit anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always felt that having rank minimums, sometimes they're fine, but there are definitely a lot where it kind of feels unfair and it kind of gatekeeps people away from the scene. Because I
Yeah.
mean, like, I don't really play ranked. I don't play well in ranked either. But like, I was like gold or whatever, and I'm still doing well against these teams. Or like, when I played against Renegades, I nearly dropped 30 in a map, and I was like Diamond 1, Plat 3, or something like that during that tournament. So
Mhm.
I feel like ranked isn't really a good judgment of your skill.
I 100% agree with that because, like, you can't always, I mean, performing in a team setting where you're like a coordinated team for tournaments and you scrim together, you practice together is so different from just like picking up a comp game where you're playing, like, if you're solo or duo queued. I mean, you can 5-stack now, but like when it comes down to it, it's it's a really, really different setting ultimately. And I definitely agree that I think especially for the growth of the Game Changers scene and how Riot kind of wants to go about all of that, it might be, better to actually take out the rank requirement because I believe for VCT there's no minimum rank requirement. It's just teams. Is there?
It's
Am I
Immortal one.
crazy?
It's Immortal.
Oh, it is Mortal.
It's
It's
Immortal.
because
Yeah.
I googled it. I googled it like right before the podcast, and I was like, this does not sound right.
It's mortal.
Okay, it is
That's a
Immortal one.
discussion on
Well,
its own though, because
yeah.
there's drama with like minimum as well. So we should definitely talk about that. But if y'all have any takes on it, feel free. But we should definitely bring that up for a future episode in depth.
I'm gonna personally hold my tongue on that one just because of the fact that I think it's like a lengthy topic that we can get like really far into. But if specifically Luna or Chloe has anything to say about that on top of what they've already said, I would love to give them the floor.
Sure, why not? I actually do think, in a way, it is unhealthy, but at the same time, it is partially healthy. Because I think if you're mechanically skilled enough, you should be able to make those ranks no matter what. There's plenty of like top tier FE players that have hit Radiant, that have hit like high Immortal, and got past those those barriers, like Katriggered or Katsumi or players like Fluorescent. Like a lot of these really skilled mechanical players, like if you're mechanically good enough, you should be able to climb in ranked. And I think that's why it's decent to have, because otherwise you're just joining the tournament and it's gonna scare you away one reason or another. You're either gonna be completely stomped 13-0'd by Cloud9 White and your Shopify's and your CLGs, or you're going to join in and it's just going to be like you're not going to really learn anything from it. Like if you can't mechanically play against these players, there's not going to be much you get from it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, I think it's more healthier in that sense. I don't know how to explain it. I think it could go more in depth later on, but I get what you're saying.
If nobody else has a follow-up,
Just
You
keep
have the
going.
floor.
Just keep going.
You have
Just
the
keep going.
floor.
You're good.
Just take it, Ash. Literally, you got it. It's all the
I'm
Ash
so
show.
afraid of talking over people.
No, you're
Okay,
good.
so I guess still talking about actually not just the game changer scene, but the scene in general, like overall, like competitive Valorant. As players who have experience actually competing within the competitive Valorant scene, and also like specifically in the marginalized genders and women's scene, how do you think we as a community, not even just us as a community, well, I guess mainly us as a community. I I need to script myself. Anyways, mainly us as a community, but also I guess this could be a note for, you know, any organizers for tournaments or and whatnot within the scene. But what do you think we could do in general to promote more inclusivity within the Valorant competitive scene right now?
Mm, I mean, I feel like inclusivity wise, there's a lot of problems with some tournament organizers and kind of not understanding trans culture and non-binary culture as a whole.
Hmm.
I remember there was an excellent twit longer by I can't remember who. Oh, Hollywood, I believe was their
Yeah,
name.
Lou.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lou's a non-binary player, and they've had a lot of hardships when it comes to finding teams, and they've had a lot of problems. And I don't really want to see that in kind of a circuit that's supposed to be based off of inclusivity.
Hmm. For sure. I think that's like that's also a hard thing that I've seen. I mean, we've seen issues with even some other tournaments, particularly. I think it was the Super. Is it Super Girl Gaming? Was that the
That's
one?
the other one.
That wait.
I
Yeah,
think
that
it's
was
the
the one.
other one.
Yeah,
It
okay,
was
that is
Yeah,
the
both
one
of
that
them.
I'm thinking of.
yeah.
Okay, I was like, there are so many tournaments that sometimes have very similar names, or like orgs that have similar names, especially for the women's and marginalized gender
Like
scene. But
Gamer Girl Fest?
yeah, I can't even remember. It's something about like, it's girl game or
Girl
something.
something.
But regardless, there are a lot of issues that we've seen coming up with tournaments and whatnot, as far as uh, both for NB and trans players. With I don't know, like I find a lot of these organizers are really, really weird about the method in which they want to like quote unquote prove
Verification.
your gender and verification for the tournament to be able to qualify to play in it. And like there are so many arguments from both sides that we've seen all over, but obviously, you know, they've heard the feedback. It wasn't well received the first time around. We
Mhm.
saw a kind of a similar iteration the second time that tournament came out, but ultimately, the verification process that's probably followed the most right now is Galorants across the board for
Yeah.
marginalized genders and women's tournaments. But is there anything, I guess, that you guys feel as players who are part of the community could be done to even improve those current verification processes that are being used right now?
I mean, I think Knights kind of did a really good job when it comes to like vouching or just kind of having like a council system where people can kind of talk about it.
Mhm.
Because we've had a lot of issues in the past when it comes to tournaments where there are people who are kind of like pretending to be trans or doing some really just weird things
Mhm.
in order to try to get into these tournaments because they think it's like free money and they're trying to just like farm clout.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like the vouch system that came with Knights is a really good idea because if you don't have any rep and and you can't use Galorants, for example, as like a way to verify yourself, it helps to have someone in the community that knows you personally or just like being able to discuss case by case basis of like, are we sure this person is like trying to fake it? I guess that's a really horrible thing to say, but, like, a lot of the times when it comes to people asking me for vouchers and stuff like that, like, I'll try my best to hype you up, I'll try my best to get you in there. I just don't want to see, like, freaks in this community, basically.
Mhm.
But, yeah, I agree with KP in chat where, like, there's a lot of flaws, but I think at the
Mhm.
moment, it's so hard to, like, iron them out at the moment.
Yeah, I think the state of it now is as good as it can be for the time being until there's like a proper way to like get verification, because I know I mean I haven't personally heard a lot of cases of like weird people trying to get into tournaments, pretend to be trans or non-binary to play in, but I'm sure there's a reason why that's been like the verification system is there, because it probably has happened. So yeah,
In other
while it can't be,
esports.
and yeah, exactly. So while it won't be perfect, I think the way Galaxy has done it is, pretty good so far. And although there are flaws, it has been just like the surefire way to have people get into these tournaments. And I'm totally not saying that because I'm a mod.
We love Valorant. We love
Oh,
Valorant.
disclaimer. We
little
have a
I'm
disclaimer.
totally not saying
Disclaimer.
that because I'm a mod. I'm totally not. Their system is great.
You are independent right now. It's all good.
Exactly.
All
There you go.
thoughts are our own.
Mhm.
But KP made a really good point in chat, just saying, like, I'll just read out KP's comments here. There are
Mhm.
many flaws in the current verification process right now, though. It's incredibly easy to abuse, and there's been a lot of weird shit floating around the scene. It shouldn't be on the individual TOs. I think Riot needs to step up and clarify some stuff. And obviously, no system will ever be perfect, and that's like 100%. It's because, I mean, gender isn't an objective, it's a subjective thing. It's not something that you can objectively like create this algorithm or decide on this specific rule set that's going to be, inclusive and accessible to everybody. Because it's just unreasonable in that way, because nobody should be gatekeeping the validity of your gender or what you identify as for yourself. So how do you guys feel about that? I think I definitely agree with KP on the fact that Riot definitely needs to step in, because I think that's probably the best chance as far as being able to have kind of a standard set across for all of these tournaments, for inclusivity purposes, to make sure that there aren't any TOs that are, kind of abusing the system and using it as a way to be exclusive or to, promote any exclusivity within the competitive scene.
Yeah, I feel like the main problem when it comes to like how everything works on an international scale, especially in Game Changers, is that Riot kind of gives the duty to the region's tournament organizers and the main like division of that region to find their own like rules basically for that specific spot. Like I know in NA, it's I think most open, like it's the most open thing of everything here. But when it comes to EMEA, because of the way that like Middle Eastern laws work and a lot of like the culture in EMEA, it gives tournament organizers a really weird spot to kind of decide what rules are rules. And I know there was a really bad case of like EMEA having this basically a system where I think they like entirely gatekept trans people from entering their tournaments.
Mhm.
And then people were getting really mad and they said, okay, you're complaining, so we're making it a co-ed event. And I think that's not a healthy way of approaching the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Especially considering that, though, I think the scene right now is too fresh to step into that co-ed scene, because we eventually do want to have, these co-ed tournaments, make sure everyone's inclusive and included in all these things. We don't have to, you know, not separate it, but make it like advertise like, oh, this is a game changers thing, you know what I mean? Because I feel like people consider game changers as its own separate thing versus the main circuit, which is why there's like a separation of like the fan base and who watches it and everything. And I know we want to get closer to that, but I think the initial introduction of like, okay, we'll make it a co-ed tournament, it was just too fresh, too new, but also it wasn't like out of the intention of, oh, we want to bring it together. It's more of just, people didn't like the initial rules, so they tried to make a different an alternative, but it also doesn't work out in the same title. Does that make sense the way I'm saying that?
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna like piggyback on top of this. Not necessarily exactly related as far as the rule sets go and whatnot, but just going back to like the game changer circuit in general, I was curious to know if like with how
Okay.
Okay.
Take your
I
time.
know. I was like, I'm gonna ask one question, and then I was like, maybe I reword and I ask a different question. But I'm gonna stick to what I have written down. Is there anything you guys would change about the Game Changer circuit in general, like the way it's set up for the bracket and whatnot? Because I believe it hasn't been officially announced, but the assumption is that we're going into another kind of like Swiss round group stages into the playoffs. But I also know that other regions have their brackets set up quite differently as well, and it kind of varies. So I guess it's a two-parter. Do you feel that the circuit should be set up the same way across all of the regions? And then second, would be any changes that you would maybe like to see done to the circuit, ways that you think it could maybe be improved?
I think it should be kind of more like equal across the board. I think a lot of the way Game Changers is ran and how the tournaments are ran needs to
Mhm.
be more just like streamlined and more like this is what it is for this region as well as this region. I do think from last time, if I remember correctly, there was some weird seeding stuff as well with the Swiss bracket. I know a
Mhm.
lot of teams were playing against teams that they shouldn't have been playing against. Just the way they did it. I think the Swiss
Mhm.
seeding was really screwed up, and they need to fix that. Hopefully they do going into this one. But those are like the major things I would say.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. Oh, sorry. So
Sorry,
it wasn't the format itself, but the seating that you had the issue with.
Um, like the original seeding, the way it started was fine, but once you won a game or you lost a game, the seeding got all messy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the seating was basically everything was initially seeded. And then when you win your first game, everybody that's like 1-0 and such, they all played against each other randomly. So we had like really weird matchups that kind of were unexpected at the 1-0
Mhm.
point. Like we had Complexity versus CLG, and then we would have like random teams with no names playing against each other for the 1-0 spot as well. So I think that was a big problem when it came to it. I'd like to see that change in the future. But I think another problem with, I guess, the Swiss group in general is kind of how long it takes when you're not at the like 3-0, 3-1 level. A lot of the like 2-2 matches and the 3-2 matches went on for a really long time. And I think it was like 3-4 BO3s in a day. And that's really taxing as a player.
Mhm.
But at the same time, when it came to just like format in general, I feel like this is a problem with VCT as a whole. Um, every tournament in every region is basically different. Like, I know when it came to qualifying for Masters Berlin, NA and EU kind of had their own thing. And then in Southeast Asia, they played like these double elim groups with best of twos instead of best of threes. And it was really confusing to just get a hold of as like a viewer and a player.
Mhm.
So I'd like to see that change too. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens because I know there's so many like there's a variety of different teams that kind of play in tournaments and the frequency, especially in game changers. Going back to the Diamond One kind of, I think it's Diamond, yeah, Diamond One,
Yeah.
for Southeast Asia. The reason why it's like that is because there's so many teams playing in Southeast Asia. They have a crazy scene there, but
Mhm.
compared to like EU and NA and stuff like that, like there's a big frequency. So sometimes maybe a format has to be changed, but I'd like for it to be like as uniform as possible.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
And I mean, on top of that, I was just curious to know, like, oh my God, I had my question. Now I'm blanking.
You're
This
good.
today is not my day,
It's all good.
clearly.
It's all good.
My question though was, someone please take it away while I think. I'm begging.
I can sing a song in the meantime.
That'll,
Please
I don't know
do.
if that'll
I
help
love that.
you.
Actually,
I love that.
can we hear?
The bumpers
Frozen.
vocals.
Yes, yes. You
I
know
did
what
it.
song?
Okay.
Love
So
is an open door. Oh my God, that's the name.
when me and
Wait,
Spicy,
DMCA? Hold on.
when me and
Hey, yes.
Spicy went to the Game Changers thing in California, her, and Jody went to the karaoke place in like, where was it? Like K Town or something? I don't know, but we went in there, we were early, and we were like, yeah, let's just get some reps in before people come so that we can just like have a show for ourselves because we're all three of us are like really close the first time we went to Cali and we just clicked. So then I did a one-man show on a table in the middle of a karaoke bar and freaking just
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And
funny.
Wish I
singing "Love is
filmed
an
it.
Open
It was
Door."
actually so good. It was so good. Thank you for telling the story. Unfortunately, for risk of DMCA, we're not gonna do the cover right now.
Not yet. I'll do a
But-
cover on
That's so
YouTube.
sad. Oh my god.
Stay in touch. I'll do a cover on
Honestly,
YouTube.
Ayo, Gompers, I'm gonna get you to throw that on Twitter sometime, I swear. But that did allow me to think of the follow-up question that I did have, so I appreciate you taking the attention away from me for a second there. When it comes down to the, I literally lost it again. I hate my life. I hate
No.
what was
I think
it?
you should
Okay,
sing "Love
we
is an
talked
Open Door." I
about-
think it'll clear your mind.
yeah, I clearly need to sing "Love Is an Open
I'll send you
Door
the
right
muscle
now.
frog again.
We'll
My
see.
brain isn't.
I'll
Please
give you
do
10
not
seconds,
send
and
Closed
if you don't figure it out, I'm gonna send you the picture of the frog with the
Yeah,
muscles.
you can do the frog on the skateboard.
Now I'm being
Yeah, I think-
threatened.
That's what I was gonna say. Sending threats with frogs, like,
Honestly, call him Tony Hawk.
no, like,
Okay. What was? Oh yeah. Okay. Before I forget, the one change that we saw was released by Riot for Game Changers for the NA series at the very least. Last year it was 3 days for the tournaments for each series. So it'd be like the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This year, every series is going to go over 4 days instead of 3. And I was wondering how you guys felt about that change. I mean, we don't know what the exact formatting is going to be yet because I still don't think it's been released since the episode that we initially talked about it. Please, Riot, we're begging you for the information. But
Soon.
I think
when it comes down, did my computer just
Wow,
Hello?
your computer is also like not with it today.
oh no,
Did I just crack? Wait, why?
Oh no.
He goes, oh
oh no.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
No,
Oh my goodness.
It's like,
it's over.
Detected a driver timeout. I have no. Okay, well, I don't have screens, but you have my audio.
we're good. We're good.
How do you guys feel about that change, considering the fact that you did mention that you felt that Swiss rounds were a lot, the group stages, especially like the day one, going into Game Changers last year. And now seeing that there's an additional day being added on, do you think that's going to be enough to give every team like a break? Because I know that last year you were like your
Uh
Oh no. Oh
She's
no.
gone.
oh.
It's
She's
teeter-totting.
gone.
Can I get an 07 in chat for Ash?
Oh no, this is so sad. 07. What is 07?
It's the
Oh,
salute.
Oh, salute.
Oh, you're right. Oh my gosh.
For
Wait, that
Ash.
looks like a salute. Oh, okay. Anyways, now that Ash is gone, I'll
No.
talk. I'll talk.
I mean, she
Wait,
kind
no,
of got the
just
gist
wait
of
a
the
second.
question out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, does that help? Does she need to clarify more?
no, I think she actually asked it
I
pretty
think
well.
at the time she's gone, she'll figure out the question she wanted to ask.
Okay. If y'all don't mind, while we figure things out, if you could answer her somewhat formed question.
I do think it is helpful to have that extra day, as Chloe was saying earlier, where it kind of gives more teams, or not more teams, more time in between like sets, and like instead of playing like 5 blocks a day, you might play like 3 or 4, and then you kind of just like split it out over a longer period of time. Any like added day is always going to be good until it just becomes too much, obviously. So I do think having a 4-day schedule is good. I don't think they need to go any past that. I think 4 days is probably perfect.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Definitely, it's a good even not to have a whole week long of just games and all that stuff. It saves time for the players and production. So I agree with that.
Are you back? Are you?
I don't think she's on the call yet.
She's
No,
typing.
She's still.
Oh snap! Okay.
She's somewhere.
She's
All right. Well,
But I now that she's gone, it's like there's a hole. There's something
I feel
missing. There's a
I
fail.
feel
Like,
empty.
listen, I'm just here for the comedic effect. I don't really do much here. I research, yes. I talk from time to time, but I'm not very good at this filling thing.
Any
Um,
vampers in chat?
Any vampers in chat? Anyways, as we
All right.
continue on.
Well, that
yeah.
was kind of anticlimactic because I think she had the last question for us. So,
Okay.
oops. But
Well,
do y'all have any questions? Or
I'm
Oh my gosh, she's back.
wait.
she's back. Oh,
I don't even know. My computer like started flickering black screens, and I was like, "This is
okay.
not."
You please close us before something happens again. Please, you have the
Oh.
closing question, no?
Oh yeah, I do have a closing question.
Oh,
Okay,
wait.
my closing question was I was curious to know what okay, I have two closing questions, but they're really quick, I promise. First
Okay.
off, what is both of your all-time favorite video game? Like all time, like across any genre.
All time. Chloe, do you want to answer that first?
Oh man, this one's really hard to me. I mean, I used to be absolutely in love in Team Fortress, like with Team Fortress 2. That game was amazing, but can't say I love it anymore. I think I gotta go with the tried and true Tetris. We love Tetris,
A classic.
of course.
For me, I have one favorite, like as a competitive game, which would probably right now be Valorant, I think without a doubt. Otherwise, I don't know, like the Spyro, like just like whole game, like storyline and everything, just every single Spyro game, I would just lump them into one. That's probably my favorite.
Good answers, good answers. And my second question was if you guys had to pick any agent to like actually be that agent, who would it be and why?
Honestly, Sage, so I can help people out. But
Aw.
also, Sova's pretty cool, so I kind of also have to say Sova as well at the same time. Otherwise, I feel like I'm betraying my character.
True.
Ooh. For me, I think I'm either Omen or Neon. Imagine how cool it would be to like teleport just like in real life. That would be crazy. Like imagine like you have to take a long flight and instead of that you're like there in 10 seconds.
You gotta keep that a secret though before they try to make you pay for that in some way, shape, or form.
That's true. That's true. But to be fair, how do they track you?
True.
Factual, very factual. And before we head out, Winter has one last question for Chloe specifically. How do you feel about Battle Royale Tetris?
Battle Royale Tetris is crazy. I love I think Tetris in a way is its own like puzzle fighting game and it kind of has its like own niche of a community and that community is amazing.
That's sick. I honestly, I know nothing about the Tetris community, so it's actually pretty dope to hear that that's your favorite game. But I believe that is all the time we have for the interview. We don't want to keep you guys for too long. I know that my technical issues ran things a little bit longer than we were probably expecting as well. So I just want to say that we really appreciate having both of you on here answering our questions and the chat's questions today. And just like having the opportunity to get to know both of you better as well. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time out to talk to us and to come on to the post plant. And were there any final words that either of you wanted to say, whether it's like final words in general or anybody that you'd like to thank or shout out before we head out?
I'll let Luna go ahead first.
I was gonna say, if I'm shouting out anybody, just shout out to the 24Haven team and the management that we have, as well as our soon to be announced org for supporting us, and everybody that supports us as a team and as players. It means a lot to every single one of us. I know I can speak for everybody on our team when I just say, like it drives us to do better things and keep going. So thank you for that.
Thank you guys for coming on. Like seriously, it was actually a pleasure. I'm very happy you guys said yes. And I really do hope to see great things in Game Changers coming up. I'm very excited to see you guys, play your hearts out, possibly win first. I don't know. I'm not saying anything. I'm just hinting at it, I guess. I don't know. Chloe Gaming. I'm just spitting
already
words right
written.
now, spitting fire.
We've already written the script. It's already
Yeah.
planned. We're winning Game Changers 2. We can't win the first one just because it'd be too
Yeah.
obvious that we
Yeah,
already
no.
Storyline.
So
Yeah, it's
like
the storyline. You gotta
yes,
have
the
the
build up.
Yeah, you have to have like the cliffhanger before it drops down to the resolution. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So makes sense.
Gotta build it up.
Absolutely.
Got to build the suspense. And Chloe, was there anything that you wanted to say before you headed
Yeah,
out?
I mean, thank you for having us. It's an honor. You guys do so much for the scene and just Valorant in general. I love all of you guys. Make sure to follow our socials, 24Haven Val on Twitter. Everybody's Twitter ats and stuff like that is on there. We post news about the team. And shout out to my homies on Anbox and all the cool just like women that I've been working with like over my past year in esports. It's been crazy. And there's been like so many amazing people behind the scene and like within the pro scene and broadcasting. You're all so cool and you're an inspiration to me.
Yeah. My inspiration telling me that I'm their inspiration.
Aww.
Aw.
No, like I genuinely look up to you guys and all of the other pro players within the Game Changer scene like so much. I think that what's really cool about Valorant is that this particular game and the competitive scene for this game has really paved a way for women and marginalized genders across all titles, in my opinion, especially like seeing like CSGO coming out with their women's circuit as well, like following in the footsteps of Valorant. I just think that, having role models like you guys out there, like the other teams out there and the other pro players within this particular scene, it really sets the tone for what's gonna happen in the future of gaming. And I appreciate both of you and everybody else, within the scene who is able to, be at the forefront of things, be the face of the scene as well. And just, I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm excited for the future of gaming.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of crazy how many people behind the scenes go unrecognized too. I mean, there's two people I'd love to shout in particular. One I'm not allowed to speak on, but the second,
They know who they are.
Lava Yangsin. She works at C9 now. She used to be one of my like bosses at Ambox, and she's an amazing person. I've learned so much from her, and I'm really happy that I met her in my journey in esports.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again so much for coming on. That is it for the Q&A with Chloe and Luna tonight, guys. And after this, we're just going to do a really short recap on some of the news going on within the Game Changer scene and the women and marginalized gender scene in general. So stay tuned. We will be back in a few.
Hi guys.
Oh yeah, I forgot I was bringing us in. I like completely brain farted.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Flip it.
You're specifically like, hey
I
guys,
was
who's
like,
bringing
why
us back
is
in
it-
Gompers? I'm gonna do it.
I was like, why is it so silent in here? Why is nobody talking? How hard is it to talk? And then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh god, wait. It's my fault.
Well.
Anyways, hi guys. Welcome. So now we're back. A great interview. Great interview. I'm so sorry. I'm very bad at this. But now we're gonna go more into the regions as promised. But first, of course, we're starting out with just a quick little information boost. I completely just exit out of the run of show. So
We're gonna need
maybe
that.
I'm very bad at introing here. So
No, you're fine.
the winter
fine.
NSG LCQ, I said that in the complete wrong order, and North America main VCT results. We're gonna get into that. So Serenity qualified for the playoffs.
Hold up.
Yep.
Yes.
Wrong one.
Nobody's
Wrong
looking up.
S.
Did I say
Shopify.
something wrong?
Shopify.
Oh my gosh. Okay, somebody take over. I'm done.
Wait. No, you can go.
So
Take your time.
Go ahead. Just chill.
I think
We're chilling.
duo tonight.
everyone's on their last legs right now. Like everyone is just Anyways, no, I think not everyone. I think me in particular. But Shopify Rebellion, not Serenity. My brain is just completely fumbled. Qualified for playoffs and lost against Ghost. So
Gaming.
Ghost Gaming. Yeah, somebody has to take over. I'm literally losing my mind right now, and I barely did anything
All right,
already.
I'll help us out. Yeah, so just a brief recap for NA. Two main tournaments went on, open tournaments went on. So the Nerd Street Gamers LCQ, and we got to see C9 White and Shopify Rebellion compete in the LCQ. So Shopify actually qualified for the playoffs, but then they lost the first round to Ghost Gaming. But it's cool that we got to see a team qualified for that. In terms of the main circuit, so this time around, we spoke about the first set of quals, but for the second set of quals, we had even more teams competing. So let's see, we had Shopify, Cloud9 White, Genji Black, CLG Red, Resilient, and 24Haven. We can't forget them. We just spoke about them. So unfortunately, this time around, they didn't go as far as we saw. The teams didn't go as far as we saw the first stage. So I mean, again, as we were speaking with Chloe and Luna, like they're just trying to get that competitive experience. So it's not too bad to see that like they would get first rounded, but again, the point is just to build that competitive experience. What else went on? So also in NA, we had the not next level, that's something else. The level up tournament happened this past weekend where yours truly, Ash, Gompers, and myself were involved. So shout out to DJ Cat for winning that tournament. So for those of you that don't know, this is a tournament for players who are iron to silver to compete and gain competitive experience because there's not too many tournaments available for that elo. So thanks to Daystreams and Sajadine over at Community Gaming, they set up this platform for players to compete. And also shout out to Winter in the chat. So Degen Demons, right? Y'all were competing in there. Y'all made the semifinals. So congrats to y'all. So yeah, they're planning to have another one in March. So for those of you who aren't quite hitting the gold elo just yet, you should definitely sign up for that tournament. There should be 20 slots this time rather than 16 because I know there was a couple of teams on the wait list. What other tournaments we got? Sakura Cup. So Sakura Cup's a big one. Have several renditions over the past few months, coinciding with the Game Changer circuit. The next one has been announced. Don't remember the dates, but it's the 15th and the 16th, right? Yeah, February 15th and 16th.
That's why there was the concern over the times and stuff, because it's in the middle of the week.
Exactly. So Winter actually brought up this point in the chat where there's an issue with people going to school and going to work. So if a tournament's in the middle of the week, and especially in the middle of the day, no less, what does that actually do for the scene? So there was a tweet brought by I always forget how to say this, NBS, I believe.
Yeah.
And right. So saying pretty much you shouldn't ditch your IRL responsibilities to compete. But what do y'all think about the balance of trying to get the experience and then dealing with IRL?
I know that some of the TOs for the events replied that they really wanted to not have this happen in the middle of the week, but because of the main circuit VCT, they had no choice but to do that. So it was just unfortunate circumstances that they had to push it to that in order to have this competition happen. But I think with esports and competition, regardless if even if everyone doesn't want it to be this way, I think players want, I'm fumbling with my words too, gosh guys, we're all losing brain cells today, what's going on? But no, for real, I think I think players in the scene, they I don't know how to word it, but there's going to be moments like this where you're going to find yourself in a situation where, you might want to really participate in this tournament that's really big. It might be a great experience and everything. But unfortunately, it's in the middle of you have to go to a wedding or you have school classes, the midterms, finals, and everything. So I think it's just life and it happens. And whoever can make it to the events can make it. Whoever can't, and it'll still go on. So I think while it is unfortunate some teams might not be able to participate, there will be teams that will participate in the end at the end of the day. So regardless if even if the TOs don't want it to be that way, I think as long as there are people participating, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's tough. I think we should add this note to discuss it further because like there's some stuff coming out in the chat as well, and I have personal issues with like midweek events. So for sake of not having another hour discussion, let's put a note on that for future episodes. Okay. Also in NA is something called the Galentine's tournament going on. So the finals is going to occur on Valentine's Day, but throughout like February, there's I guess these I don't even know what to call it, like group stages, I guess basically, of the teams competing. So Polaris, I've seen tweets from Polaris, I've seen that they're competing. Dignitas. So Emily also tweeted that she's doing one of her matches like tonight or something like that. So there hasn't been much said about the tournament other than
Yeah.
just people saying they're competing.
I haven't seen a lot of information either. I was trying to look around and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, no streams, no nothing. I'm a little bit confused, but yeah, I'm assuming finals would be streamed.
Yeah, it should be streamed. I mean, Sakura Cup has been one of like the more popular like side tournaments in regards to the game changer scene. So there should definitely be at least one mainstream, if not like at least a final stream. So I'm assuming that'll happen.
Well, for sure Sakura, but also the Galentines said that they
Oh, the
would be
Galentine's,
streaming.
right.
They would be streaming that one as well, like
Mhm.
on Valentine's Day. So we'll stay tuned for that and hopefully tell you what the results are because we don't know what's happening with it otherwise. And then the last thing two more things for NA. One of the long-standing teams tweeted today that they're like breaking up essentially. So Resilience, one of the teams that has also been competing in like the open tournaments and doing like quite well in like the Game Changers Academy, for example. They announced that they're breaking up, which I was totally sad about. Like they were gonna be my dark horse going into Game Changers. So I'm kind of sad. But
I don't know if
hopefully
they are like breaking up, or if they're taking a break. Because I saw disband in someone's tweet, and I saw taking a break in someone else's tweet. So I think it's just undecided what their status is right now. But they definitely aren't
relationship
playing.
complicated is
Yeah.
so okay, got it. And then with NA also congrats to Benita. So I saw a tweet saying she was getting or not getting engaged. That part already happened. She's going on her honeymoon and getting married, or order married, then the honeymoon.
Then the
So
honeymoon.
cute.
So she's not married yet. She's going to get married and then go to her honeymoon.
That's
Thank
so
you.
cute.
Yes. So congrats. Hope you get to enjoy all that is entailed with that. All right. Anything for NA before we move on?
Nope.
I don't think so. I think that's mainly what happened. There isn't like too much as far as like news and coverage goes right now.
Right.
But I think moving over to EMEA, I don't know. Did you want to take that one away as well, Delta, or was there somebody else who wanted to take the lead for the EMEA region?
Up to y'all. We were just gonna walk through the bracket a little bit.
Yeah, you can just take it. You can just go off.
So G2 won. Yes, I'm repping them. G2 won the first series for the Game Changers EMEA. against Guild X. So congrats to G2, but also to Guild X, because I know that both of them were like basically undergoing a roster change and having to deal with changing up basically the synergy of the team. But seems like they fared well because they were the finalist of EMEA. We also saw, like, if you could pull up the bracket, that would be Pog if you could. Thank you. So some of the other teams, like we were talking about earlier, in an earlier episode, excuse me, Untapped was the free agent team. So they also went fairly far in the process. I know Tom Biz was tweeting a lot about like being surprised at how far the unsigned teams had gone. So although I'm still not sure, I feel like the other team was a previously signed roster that was let go. And then Untapped is basically they were signed but then let go. So I if kind of it I think the I don't know what the intent of the tweet is because I clearly don't know his brain, but like they really have a lot of experience. It's not like for example, let's say MILFs, like they had no signed experience and then they just came up and then just like took over. It's like they were signed players, had all of that experience, and then they became dropped players. So I feel like maybe the balance of the tweet maybe might be a little bit off, but regardless, they should be signed because they're clearly still cracked. They just need to find a team that they mesh with. Let's see what else. So 10 Star, I think we talked about last time. 10 Star, as I said, they didn't make it into the finals of EMEA, but they did attempt to do another like lower bracket run as they have with the last few Game Changers series. But they still looked good. Like that's something that we should plug. Our goal is to be able to do a few VOD reviews, like spread out throughout like the month or so. So for those of you who want to watch the EMEA games that didn't get a chance, like some of us, because like for me personally, I can only catch a few maps here and there. Definitely stay tuned for that on the channel so we can like watch the games together and bond, stuff like that. So anything else anyone wants to mention about EMEA and what transpired?
Nope.
I think you covered basically everything. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like a pretty brief rundown. And then I guess the last thing that we have to talk about really is isn't really any news on Brazil or Latin America right now, considering the fact that we did just go through the first series the other week when we had Dan on, who was kind enough to come on and talk to us about both her experience. Unfortunately, I did miss that episode, but her experience like casting it, as well as just how the teams are looking in that region in general and how they kind of square up in comparison to NA, which is definitely the region that we are all more we're all more familiar with. So it was really cool to actually have those parallels drawn, but for that reason, we don't really have too much to talk about for them. And then the last thing would be for APAC, the registrations for VCT Game Changers Stage 1 just did open. And it's a reminder that for APAC, I believe that is the only region where the minimum rank of Diamond 1 and above is enacted. And as I believe it was Chloe mentioned earlier in the interview, that being because there are just so many teams within APAC that the higher rank ceiling is just a bit more necessary to kind of weed out the competition, or else you'd have just a bunch of teams signing up and there aren't enough spots and it's not reasonable for the bracket.
Yeah, it's just a lot. I think I've had my sentence now. I was gonna mention earlier. I think it's a lot more healthier, like to have these rank requirements in terms of like, because the region has so many teams already signing up. Without the requirement, there'd be much more, and then it'd be a bigger process in the brackets. I already talked about that. There's some flaws in the brackets previously before, so I think this is a good way. But I also want to point out that the minimum rank of Diamond 1 and above, it can be in any episode or any act. So I'm
Oh,
assuming that
really?
so that means if a player hit Diamond 1 at any point while playing the game, then they still qualify to play.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's really, really interesting,
Mhm.
actually. Huh.
That just opens it up a little bit more than just Diamond 1 and above like now. So that's
Mhm.
gonna be pretty it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how that plays out.
That's so huh. Sorry, I'm like
No, you're good.
processing that right now.
Yeah.
But I think that's
'Cause
that's all of the info that we have
yeah.
going on at the moment. And
Uh,
then
yeah. Oh, basically, Oxygen and EMEA broke up as well. But
Oh yeah.
yeah,
like
that's
they
unfortunate.
completely broke up and disbanded.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah. So
I hate to see it.
there's no details about it, but they were a good roster, so I have
Mhm.
no idea what
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah,
I
I
wonder
mean,
if the team will stay together like outside of the org, or if
Mhm.
everybody's kind of going like
Mhm.
free agent, trying to find like new. So it's going to be interesting, like in the
It-
upcoming.
it's
Yeah.
hard to tell, you know. It's hard to
Mhm.
tell, like why they broke up and if they'll stay together as a team because we don't know the internal issue, if there were internal issues, or if there's any, it's kind of hard, or we haven't really seen a lot of teams who have previously disbanded and then all of them stick together and go to a new team or a new org. I mean, or like
Did it?
create their own. I don't, but not to my memory. I think there's been some teams where maybe some of the players transfer to different teams to the same
Mhm.
team, but not the whole team. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
gotcha. I think like honestly, I'm not going to get into this too much, but I think I
Mhm.
would like to see uh game changers teams and just like yeah, I'll just leave it at game changers teams. Game
Mhm.
changers teams kind of doing what I believe C9 White did was being free agents like as a team as a whole rather than like individual free agents, like kind of
Mhm.
almost not like forcing an org to, but like
Yeah.
essentially you are forcing an org to have to pick up your entire roster, just because of the fact that it really helps like encourage the team to grow together. There's like no fear of like being split up and whatnot. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's something that I would like to see maybe a bit more normalized within the scene in general, but especially for game changers teams where having that foundation.
Ash,
Um,
we're about to raid.
oh yeah,
So
I queued that, and does it just pop when the timer goes? I think it
yeah,
does.
It does.
So we'll see you
Thank you
guys.
so much, guys, for tuning in.
Bye. We love you.
Bye.
I